do you have to say about what's happening in Russia and Ukraine? Have you spoken with anyone in the Ukrainian government?
I've spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days. And it's creating a real dilemma for Putin, and we've been in direct contact, constant contact with the Ukrainians. That's all I'm going to say about it while it's active.
This is my video update on this Wednesday morning, August the 14th. Let's talk about some news. And let's start things off with the latest Elensky curse coming out of Japan. Kishida, he announced that he is stepping down as Prime Minister of Japan. And the reason that Kishida gave, according to CNN, is that his party, with him as the leader, will not be able to win the elections, will not be able to stay in power. Here is a post from the Sirius report, which says, fears that LDP will lose the next election is the reason that Kishida is stepping down. Japanese Prime Minister Fumio Kishida will not run for a second term as leader of the long-ruling Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP, next month, following a series of political scandals that have fueled calls for him to resign. Yeah, it's the scandals. It's the scandals. It's the economy in Japan. It's the fact that Kishida paid more attention to Project Ukraine and what the United States was ordering him to do than he did about his own country. A pattern that is common in the collective West. Ukraine above all else. Money to Ukraine above all else. That is the core of the Elensky curse. That and Elensky number 5. Once you get a whiff of Elensky number 5, it's game over. Unless you're Viktor Orban. Viktor Orban has figured out a way to prevent the catastrophic effects of Elensky number 5. I don't know how Orban does it, but he's figured out the cure, the remedy to prevent Elensky number 5. Kishida, no such luck. This is a big Elensky curse. This is a big one. You had Biden getting Elensky cursed, and now you have Kishida. So that's what's going on in Japan. And since we're talking about the Elensky curse, how about the fact that the Elensky curse may be getting Elensky? He may be falling victim to his very own curse, because the situation in Kursk is really bad, and this could be the downfall of the man in the green t-shirt. Things are not looking good in Kursk for Elensky and his military under the command of Syrsky. So the narrative that the collective West is now going with is that this Kursk incursion, another turtle. Hey, buddy. So this incursion into Kursk, the narrative that the collective West is now running with, is that this was all about knocking Russia off balance. That's what this was all about. Ukraine now controls 1,000 square kilometers or 10,000 square kilometers or 100,000 square kilometers of Russian territory, and all of this was an operation about knocking Russia off balance. That is what the narrative from the collective West is, which is just a bunch of BS. It's a load of bollocks, is what it is. The entire Kursk operation was about capturing the Kursk nuclear power plant. And when that didn't happen, after 2 days of the operation, the goal of the operation of capturing the Kursk power plant failed, catastrophically failed. The narrative that the collective West is now desperately trying to push is that this was all about knocking the Kremlin off balance. Bloomberg put out an article with the title, Ukraine plotted incursion to throw Kremlin off balance. Kiev had weighed shock strike for some time, official says. Ukraine says it controls 1,000 square kilometers of territory. That's what it was all about, knocking Russia off balance, right? Because when you knock Russia off balance by sacrificing 2,000 to 3,000 of your best soldiers and your best equipment, well, that's all worth it, isn't it? Nonsense, man. Absolute nonsense. It sounds good if this was a movie screenplay, but this is not a movie. And Biden, he actually spoke to the media for the first time about the Kursk incursion, and the professor, he said that he is in direct talks with Ukraine. Now, keep in mind, the Pentagon came out with a statement, and they pretty much said they have no idea what Ukraine is doing in Kursk. They had nothing to do with it. This is what the Pentagon said, the Pentagon spokesman. He said they had nothing to do with the planning of Kursk. They were not notified by the Elensky regime. They support Ukraine. Of course, they support Ukraine, but they're trying to figure out what exactly the goals of this operation are. That's what the Pentagon said. But Biden, he spoke to the media, and he said that he is in direct contact with Ukraine over the assault on Kursk. Quote, I have spoken with my staff on a regular basis, probably every 4 or 5 hours for the last 6 or 8 days, and it's creating a real dilemma for Russian President Putin, Biden told reporters on Tuesday in his first remarks about the Kursk offensive. And we've been in direct contact, constant contact with the Ukrainians. That's all I'm going to say about it while it's active. So Biden makes it seem like he's very much involved in the Kursk operation. Biden's commanding the Kursk operation, and if Biden's commanding the Kursk operation, well then, Russia's in big trouble. That's how you know this is all BS. The whole narrative about the Kursk incursion, the narrative about Ukraine controlling 1,000 square kilometers, about this being a successful operation, knocking Russia off balance, this is posing a problem for Putin. All of this is complete bollocks, man. That's how you know it's bollocks, is when you have Biden coming out and saying, I speak, my advisors, we're speaking on the Kursk incursion with Ukraine every 4 to 6 hours. Give me a break. Give me a break. We all know that Biden is in bed at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock. So what are they waking up? Are they waking up Biden every 4 hours from his sleep, from his nap, to brief him on what's going on in Kursk? It's nonsense, man. It's nonsense. They wanted the damn nuclear power plant. They couldn't get the nuclear power plant. That was their last desperate Hail Mary attempt to try and get some leverage over Russia, to try and trade some land or the Zaporozhye nuclear power plant or something with Russia. It failed, and now they're reconstructing new reasons for the incursion, new narratives, new stories. 1,000 square kilometers and maneuver warfare. Ukraine's engaged in maneuver warfare, and they control 74 villages or 72 villages. And Putin's in trouble. And the Kremlin has been thrown off balance. It's just all storytelling. Russia's going to annihilate and is annihilating the Ukraine military. I've read reports saying that that Ukraine brigades are now trying to retreat. I believe the 82nd or the 84th or both brigades are now trying to get the hell out of Kursk. These soldiers are doomed. They are doomed. All their equipment is doomed. And if Russia takes two to 3 weeks to clean up Ukraine in Kursk, and they can speed up the collapse of the Elensky regime by 2 to 3 months, then, why not? This is going to speed up Ukraine's collapse and Elensky's collapse. And that's what's happening in Donbass, for example. In Donbass, things are looking worse and worse for Ukraine because they've diverted some of their best military to Kursk. So that's Biden talking about how he's being briefed every 4 hours. I'm sorry, it's ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I'm imagining Biden getting briefed by his White House aides every 4 hours, and Biden's strategizing, and he's thinking very, very, very deeply. He's very concentrated on the planning of Kursk and what to do to defeat Putin. What could be happening now? This is possible. Sullivan and Blinken, they could be telling Biden that Elensky is 10 kilometers from Moscow. And knowing Biden and the state that he's in, he may be believing that. Blinken may be waking up Biden as he's sleeping. Mr. President, Elensky is now 20 kilometers away from Moscow. You did it, Mr. President. You've defeated Putin. And Biden's going to be like, yes, I knew I could do it. I knew I had it in me. Who knows what they could be telling Biden? So Jungle Joseph, he put out a post on Twitter X, and he said, discussed with Kuleba, that's a reliable source, Foreign Minister Kuleba, the last developments on the front line and the Kursk counteroffensive. I reiterated the EU full support of the UA people's fight. Putin hasn't managed to break UA resistance against his unjustified invasion and is pushed now to withdraw inside Russian territory. That's how you know this is BS, man. When you have guys like Borrell putting out Twitter posts like this. Yeah, Russia is retreating in its own territory. It's fantasy, man. It's fantasy. This is cinema. This is storytelling cinema. Pure fantasy. This is Rambo. Rambo 2, right? That's what we're seeing. So that's Jungle Joseph. What if the collective West, or the real decision makers of the collective West, what if they're telling Jungle Joseph to put out these posts, or they've convinced Jungle Joseph and Biden that things are going well in Kursk, so they're talking up how things are going well in Kursk, and they're encouraging Elensky to continue to send more and more soldiers into Kursk, because the powers that be, they see this as a really good opportunity to finally be rid of the man in the green t-shirts, because the more of a disaster Kursk is, the greater the chance that Elensky is cooked. This could be their way of getting rid of Elensky, right? Continue to encourage him. Tell Elensky that you have Biden's support. You have the EU support. Jungle Joseph supports you. And just keep on sending troops, Elensky. Keep on pushing into Russian territory. We've got your back. But what really is going to happen is that when it all collapses in 2-3 weeks, Elensky's going to be thrown under the bus. Another turtle. We're discovering turtles all throughout Limassol. So yeah, that could be what's going on here. And Elensky doesn't realize it. He hasn't realized any of it. Elensky's telling Podolyak, Biden supports my Kursk operation, but he supports my Kursk operation. Keep doing it. Keep going into Russia. I have support from my friends in Washington and Brussels. Because when it all collapses, Elensky's going to be to blame, and Elensky's going to try to blame Syrskyi. And the collective West, they're going to blame Elensky, right? That could be what's going on here, because Russian intel, the Foreign Intelligence Service, they are reporting that the West wants Elensky gone. They're tired of Elensky. And they even have a successor. They've picked, what's the dude's name? I know this guy. Arsen Avakov, that's right. This is the guy from the Maidan times. He was the minister of the Interior, of Internal Affairs. This guy's like a deep state dude. He's a CIA deep state asset guy. He survived the Maidan. He survived Poroshenko, Elensky, even Ukrainians. They wanted Ukrainian citizens. They wanted him gone when Elensky won the elections, right? It's a lemon tree or a lime tree. They wanted him gone as the interior minister because this guy had a tremendous amount of power and he had the whole deep state intel apparatus under his control. And Ukrainians wanted him gone. They actually, in 2020, I believe, or 2021, they were actually comparing him to the devil. There were protests telling Elensky to get rid of this guy because he's the devil. That's what the signs were actually saying. I'm not making this up. That's what people holding signs were telling Elensky in Kiev. But he's stable. He's been a fixture in the government for the entirety of the Maidan up until today, and he understands how the intel services, the deep state, the three other agencies in the collective West, how they all operate. And Russian intel is saying that this is the guy that's going to take over for Elensky. This is who they want. This is who the CIA has picked. And that's what this is Russian intel that's saying this, by the way. So if you believe Russian intel, it looks like Elensky is on his way out, and maybe, just maybe, the Kursk debacle will be the way to remove Elensky. Perhaps. That's what's going on here. The Carnegie Foundation, or the Carnegie Endowment, whatever it's called, they actually wrote about Mr. Arsen in 2020. They put out an article with the title, Last Man Standing, How Avakov Survived in Ukraine. Arsen Avakov has survived Ukraine's change of regime. President Elensky needs him because of his links to the dark side of the Ukrainian deep state, against which the president's young reformers are often powerless. The omnipotent minister is prepared to put aside his personal ambition to become the regime's informal mainstay. So what do you guys think? Could this be, this whole Kursk operation, could this be the collective West's way of, like the real powers in the collective West, could this be their way to usher Elensky out and move in a guy that's really part of the collective West deep state apparatus? Could this be what the end result of all of this is going to be? Elensky gone, Syrskyi gone, this Arsen guy in, three-letter agencies happy because this Arsen dude is one of theirs, like really one of theirs, and then maybe they I don't know, maybe they do negotiate with Russia or try to negotiate with Russia or continue escalating. or just hand everything to BlackRock. I don't know. I don't know what comes next. I don't think they know what comes next. I just think they're tired of Elensky because he's losing and he is a loser, and they're tired of the loser running things. So Medvedev, he was speaking to the United Russia Party, of which he's the leader, and he basically said that Russia's retaliation to the Kursk invasion, like once they mop up Ukraine, the Ukraine military in a couple of weeks, once they do all the mopping up, they're going to retaliate really, really hard against Kiev. And Medvedev, he was basically saying that Ukraine, the Elensky regime, these people are going to be labeled as terrorists. And Putin hinted at that yesterday as well. Let me read you what Medvedev said. One sec. He said, this retaliation from Russia envisages very different kinds of ramifications for those who had done this, including for the leadership of the Kiev nationalist regime. So he's basically saying that Elensky's in trouble. And Putin mentioned this as well yesterday when he was speaking to security officials. He talked about how he's not going to negotiate with Elensky, but he also talked about how the Elensky regime, they're one step away from being branded as a terrorist organization. That's basically what Putin was hinting at. I think Medvedev is hinting at that as well. And if we come to that, then Elensky's in big trouble. Elensky's in very big trouble. We'll see what happens. We now have a counter-terrorist operation in Kursk, so it's not an SMO, it's a CTO. And if you are conducting a CTO, well, then someone has to be on the other side organizing the CTO, this terrorism operation against Russia. I mean, that's just logic right there. So anyway, that is Medvedev and his statement. Always taking a hard line, Medvedev. What else? What else do we got? The United States, they approved $20 billion in weapons sales to Israel amid the threat of wider Middle East war, according to the Associated Press. They're selling Israel $19 billion in F-15 fighter jets, as well as $2.1 billion in tactical vehicles, tank equipment, and medium-range missiles. The world continues to wait and see what Iran is going to do, how Iran is going to retaliate, if Iran's going to retaliate, and how they're going to retaliate. But in the meantime, the United States continues to sell weapons to Israel. F-15s. What are you looking for? What are you looking for? Huh? What are you looking for? I don't know what he's looking for back there. Whatever you're looking for, you can grab it now. So, more MIC profits. The MIC never loses. And let's do one more story before we get to our clown world. And Germany is finally issuing an arrest warrant in the Nord Stream sabotage case. Finally, an arrest warrant for Nord Stream. Germany has issued an arrest warrant for Ukrainian diving instructor Vladimir Z. This is not a joke, everybody. An arrest warrant for Vladimir Z, suspected of involvement in the Nord Stream bombings. This was reported by Süddeutsche Zeitung, Die Welt, and ARD, which conducted a joint investigation. A total of 3 Ukrainian instructors are suspected of having attached explosives to the Russian gas pipeline, according to investigators. All 3 have already left Germany. There were a total of 6 people on the yacht where the bombing team was believed to be located, 5 men and 1 woman. Vladimir Z, lives in Poland. He denies any involvement. Warsaw took no action after the warrant was issued in June, and now the case has become a political issue because in Poland, building a pipeline was considered a sin, and a suspect in sabotage would be a hero. So they are issuing an arrest warrant. Germany, now if we're going to believe this story, Germany is issuing an arrest warrant for a diver who goes by the name Vladimir Z. Vladimir Zelensky? I don't know. Is Zelensky a diving instructor as well? I like to dive. I am certified diving expert. I don't know. But this guy, Vladimir Z, if we're going to believe this guy, Vladimir Z, blew up the Nord Stream pipeline, but he's hanging out in Poland. Yeah, okay. All right. All right. Six people on the Andromeda yacht were two years plus removed from Nord Stream, or 2 years removed from the Nord Stream pipeline sabotage. The dude that did it, according to Germany, according to the German media, is living in Poland. This guy blew up a freaking pipeline, the most important, biggest pipeline for Germany, for Europe. This guy blew it up, him and his team. But he's hanging out in Poland. He's chilling in Poland, man. and the article says that the German officials, they're calling this guy up. They're calling him up and they're telling him, you got to turn yourself in. Come on, bro, you blew up the pipeline. And this guy's like saying whatever, hanging up the phone. He's like, leave me alone. It's just a pipeline, man. What are you German officials so worked up about? I went diving with my team. We put some explosives on the pipeline. That's it, man. Nonsense, man. This is just nonsense, dude. Anyway, let's do a clown world and we will wrap this video up. And Musk and the EU Commissioner, Thierry Breton, we've got an update on that story. Breton sent the letter to Musk warning him to censor Trump, the EU Commissioner. And the Financial Times is now reporting that Breton sent this letter to Musk without the approval of Vandercrazy. That's right. Vandercrazy is throwing Thierry Breton under the bus. Her office is telling the Financial Times, we did not authorize Thierry Breton to send this letter to Elon Musk. This does not have the approval of the EU Commission. This letter was not approved by Queen Ursula. So Breton has been left. He's been left on his own with this whole debacle. Hung out to dry, as they say. Is that the expression? They left him out to dry, under the bus. Whatever you want to say, that is what the EU has done to Thierry Breton. Yeah. Like Ursula didn't know that he was sending this letter. Give me a break. Give me a break. They saw the backlash. They saw the power of Twitter and the spaces, the reach that this conversation had. They saw the backlash and how Americans were furious at the EU ordering Musk to censor Trump, Republican presidential candidate. They saw all of this, and Ursula said, you know what? Sorry, Thierry, but you're going to take the fall for this one. And that's what happened. Not to mention that if I had to take a guess, I would imagine that Musk owning Twitter X probably has a lot of interesting DMs and information on on everyone in the European Union. I don't know. That's just a guess. If I had to take a guess. Let me read you some of what the FT wrote in this Clown World segment. On Tuesday, the European Commission denied that Brennan had approval from its president, Ursula von der Leyen, to send the letter. The timing and the wording of the letter were neither coordinated or agreed with the president nor with the commissioners, it said. An EU official who asked not to be named said Thierry has his own mind and way of working and thinking. He has his own mind and way of working and thinking. Oh, man. Talk about distancing yourself from Thierry Breton and this letter. So are they going to fire Breton? They should fire Breton, this guy, for sending this letter in the normal world, in the real world that we live in. Thierry Breton would be fired. He would be dismissed. But this is the globalist world. And in the globalist world, I imagine that Thierry Breton is going to get a promotion. I don't know. I imagine that that's going to be what happens. Anyway, that's the video, everybody. TheDuran.locals.com. We are on Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, Telegram, Rockfin, and Twitter X. Go to the Duran shop, pick up some merch, like the t-shirt that I'm wearing today, or the Duran hat that I am wearing today. The link is in the description box down below. Take care.